This is IBM Museum, and this is another unboxing. And I've actually had this around for years. Had it on the shelf. Surprisingly, I've never opened it. Still shrink wrapped. And I don't know why that is. I've actually bought other of these zip drives over the years. And those have been the IDE format for internally, and then I've got my parallel port model out as well. That's the one I've been recently using, and received it not all that long ago. So let me get going and turned around, and this is the. Let me see if I can adjust that ring light a little bit, and just so I don't get a reflection, get the reflection on the overhead lights. You get to see at least that shiny surface of the shrink wrap. And of course, the initial thing that you'll notice is that it says for Mac, and at least it has SCSI up towards the top of that, and PowerBook computers, and 2 asterisks to that. But zip, up there it doesn't show anything about the SCSI interface. Just says zip for Mac computers. And we can get looking here, the system requirements for drive installation, Macintosh users, non-USB, Macintosh computer with 25-pin SCSI port. I'll get to that in a moment. I kind of knew from the study that was what I would what I'd have on the drive. And it says PowerBooks require optional cable converter, Mac OS System 7 or higher, genuine 100 megabyte zip disk sold separately. I'll get to those in a moment as well. PC users with SCSI. And it's interesting, that's kind of almost like a sidebar. 46 or higher zip. Zoom. I'm not reading what it is on the fold of the cellophane. It looks like a SCSI accelerator or other compatible SCSI adapter. Any of the following environments: Microsoft Windows 3.x, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows NT, genuine 100 megabyte zip disk sold separately, 50 pin. SCSI adapters require optional cable converter, not Ultra SCSI compatible. And we'll get to that in a moment too. For software installation, Mac or PC, 2x CD-ROM drive, 8 megabyte of RAM to run software, and 30 megabyte hard drive space. And I guess that's probably a part number in the lower corner there. That's 10932. It's got the specifications. Okay, and I guess it's got like a record it software. And then it requires a little bit higher of CPU and RAM and SCSI, or it's giving me a CD-ROM to record CD music. Industry standard sound card. Let's see what other. And then they have the optional accessories that they talk about there. Genuine 100 megabyte multicolored and gray zip disk. Zip Zoom SCSI accelerated card. Zip carrying cases. Zip Caddy disk organizer. And Zip Unleashed battery pack. And contents are the 100 megabyte zip drive with power supply and cable. 1 CD-ROM contain IOmega software, owner's manual, software provided under license, genuine 100 megabyte zip disk sold separately. And I mean, I could have gone over the list of items there, but you know, it's just our little blurbs there for why these are so fantastic. And I like these mainly for the aspect of being able to transfer the contents. That big of contents, and they make these zip disk in or the drives that use a disk. In those different formats, the parallel port, the IDE, the SCSI, even have USB interfaces for these as well. And there's the back panel. And again, that Mac computers, and that's the main aspect that we're looking at, is that this, you know, the sidebar of that it's a SCSI interface on this, and this can be used with PCs. Now, I did have these, I talked about the CD of this IOmegaware being included, and I did have these separate, and I think these were with some gateway systems I had, and just different versions. In fact, that's probably even like a gateway label maybe on that one. So, and then the driver software that you're going to find out there online is there's a lot newer stuff that's available anyway. And these are the multicolored disc, and these are set up for the Mac format. And I list that one as blank, I guess. I've had these around. Who knows where I picked them up from, whoever wrote on the label or whatever. And the other zip drives discs that I have are just the standard black ones, and I've got quite a few ones for that. Now, going through, before I open this up, I do have my parallel port version. I mean, that's going to be very similar connections, but you notice icons there are that it shows something that looks like a printer very much, to be aware that that's the printer interface. And I do have that cable coming off of my tweener system here. Now, this is the dual boot Windows XP and DOS 0.622 or whatever on here. And I do have the parallel port version of this. It's funny enough that it is set up in the DOS environment, and it's recognized under DOS, and that's going to be the aspect for this DOS Sember video. And the other side is of the Windows XP. I don't know what parameters to go through and set up the parallel port. It's just not automatically recognized. And that's the irony, of course. And aside to these tweener systems, in particular for the Windows XP, I often put a SCSI interface, just a standard Adaptec SCSI card. I'll get actually showing those in this video or an aspect of a follow-up video, because these tweener systems, if they have that with Windows XP and having that SCSI adapter, they work with my SCSI scanners that I have. And you know, the scanners are not really as full featured as the big copy machine I have for scanning, but it's a basic scan setup that is easy for me to set up. I mean, this thing has like, I think one PCI interface to it. You can put one PCI adapter in there, and I put a standard Adaptec, probably 2940 adapter in there for running SCSI. And I do have, in preparation for this video, this coming off of that SCSI adapter that I have in the tweener system. Now, I may go through, and I've got actually a bunch of SCSI cables, and I may go through later on and actually go to something like just a standard Centronics interface, so I can have a port like this, and with something like a switch box or something like that. Not so much to switch between systems or anything like that, or to switch between devices, but just to get a common connection point. And I do have even interface connections for these to go, having the standard SCSI connection, that 50-pin old style basically connection, and to go to different styles of connectors. And the reason that I would do that is just for the aspect of being able to work with it with the cables I have. In particular, the PS2, the IBM SCSI, you're not going to find an adapter that goes between that and the 25-pin port easily enough. Now, at the other end of this, for a particular adapter, being that it's a 2940, that is the high-density 50-pin connector that's actually on that adapter. And I can get through and pull out other adapters, as I'm going to talk about putting those on other systems to be able to host this drive. This is a drive I would plan beyond the parallel port interface that this system is nice for, the ability to work with it. I've got SCSI adapters on a lot of systems, including my PS2s. And of course, the aspect with SCSI on PS2s as well is that if you have IBM SCSI in there and your attached SCSI devices change at all, it's going to want to run the SCSI configuration. And so it's a little bit less adaptable. You can go through and you can put on actually the Adaptec microchannel adapter to get past occasions like that. But it's just an aspect that you have to deal with if you're talking use of IBM SCSI on a PS2. And so I'm just going to go ahead and leave a lot of the shrink wrap on this. Hopefully I went in the right end for this. I could go either end. And real good packaging. We're going to put the box aside for now. Go through. And this is probably like a manual and CD pack, still sealed. And we get to the power adapter, which at least is smaller than the parallel port model, maybe the same voltage. Still with the anti-static bag. And didn't even have to tear the label, just came off. And then on the back, of course, you can see the differences in the connection style. Instead of showing that printer-like device, and there you have the ability to change the SCSI ID And, for PS2s, you'd probably typically go and set 5 rather than 6. And then you have the ability to do termination as well. And the end device of the chain should be terminated. So this is set as a default to on for termination. And as the shows where the SCSI connection. Now this port that's marked as SCSI, that is just like with the parallel model. Let's do side by side. Because these are effectively the same sort of thing. You connect up to the zip drive side with your connection, and then you're going through, and that other port is the pass-through port. You go to your printer, possibly you go to your printer with this port, and then this is for any additional SCSI devices where your termination in that case would be off. It's just passing through, and you praying on termination on whatever's further out there on the chain of SCSI devices. And they include the cable in here, standard 25 pin to 25 pin. And I do have SCSI adapters that are these 25 pin connectors, and that's viewed as an Apple SCSI interface. But some of my systems with that, like the Mul 30, they don't have the 486 class CPU in them, as it says that's the requirements. And so it's probably not really possible to go through and connect up to something like that with. And these have where the power connection is just that angled connection, and you go through. And they have a way to, you can come out the side or whatever, but you go through and then you run the power cable under that, the power plug. So these can go through and set upright or whatever. Let's go through and undo the twist tie. And that's what I want to go through and do, is to initially see, and I haven't run anything like I do have the Easy SCSI, and this is probably good to leave it as 5. I should have gone through and could have connected this up before, but that's not a problem. We have or the drive powered up before the system. Trying to get a little organized here. And I'm going to go through, let's go through and power up the system. And this does take a little bit of time to boot, and then we get that selection for whether we want to go through and let it boot to Windows XP or to DOS. And we are going to go to DOS. In this instance, it's not, it is the winter season for like Windows, but it is, let's go on the DOS December sort of theme. Okay, and so we have the Adaptec BIOS that goes through, and it probably goes through and sees. We could have even checked the SCSI adapter just to make sure that it sees this drive connected to it. Now this, I've got that parallel port. Okay, So this works with the parallel port, and it looks like even though that the IOmega SCSI driver not loaded, and so let's go through. We'll let it boot. Okay, and that's just that where it goes through and tries to call that. And I think we're going to have, and this should go through by, I've got that IOmega and also the zip disk. I think it's on the IOmega. Okay, and let's do a directory for that. And they talked about going through and running and we may need to go into that DOS stuff directory. Okay, there's the SCSI config. So let's see what that. Okay. Okay. So I may need to get going through and to study how exactly that works. I may have to run, who knows if there's like the easy SCSI for like DOS or something like that. I don't know if we want to look at that DOS stuff. Let me look through just a directory listing one more time. I wonder if we go through the install process again. We could try. I meant to look at those other okay. Let's look at custom install. Okay, and we're in this directory anyway. Okay. Okay. So we may have to look at an aspect there. Let's look to see. Because I don't think that I even have I don't think that I have this CD drive even. So we have this IOmegaware. Might even be interesting comparing that to because I don't have under DOS, I don't have, and this isn't, I think this is an IDE. No, excuse me, this might even be a SATA drive connection. I know the D, yeah, we don't have anything there. So what we're going to do, I'll have to look at, going through and doing install. But we're going to go through, we're going to reboot the system. We're going to forget that this is this is DOSember, and I want to see what Windows XP will do for recognizing this. It might be interesting that one is recognized under DOS and the other is recognized under Windows, and see what exactly that's gonna be for us. Now I do plan for the 7588 that I've had out right in previous videos, and that has just that's got all those serial ports, and I just have DOS loaded on that. I've got PC DOS 7, and even though the counter will go through, we'll save 24 seconds of that boot routine going through, and in that menu system. But I think that that's going to be an interesting system, being that it's just it's a Pentium level system as well, that going through, and I can put a Windows 3.1, Windows 95 on there. I think I've got enough room on those drives. It's got that RAID configuration, I think, or at least those two drives that seem to be mirroring each other. And I'll look at how much space I have, and I'll probably need a bootloader for that. I'm going to have, having the DOS and different Windows versions there. Heck, I could even run Windows 98. Those, I don't think the single board computers, the USB is not as common of port there, but I mean, that's kind of a minor point. I want it as a few different OSs of the Windows, and I'm thinking of that even for using that as the client access to my AS400, going through and demonstrating that from the Windows 3.1 and Windows 95 both, because I have serial ports on it. It's real easy, those 25-pin cables, to go through and connect that to my switch block to go through and run that client access. It's got the zip drive on there, but going through and putting something like a SCSI interface, so I can move to this SCSI zip drive. I can put a CD-ROM or even have an external. I've got an external CD-ROM as well to go through and plug in for the instances I need something like that to be able to install Windows 95 and to do that client access CD as well that is included with the AS400 software. But that I think is a primary system, and that's why I did have some of these SCSI adapters out to look at what I will put in there. And I think I'm going to do a separate video on those for how I'm going to put the SCSI interface on there and load the Windows systems and things like that. But let's go return to this system and let's see if what drives it sees to this system. Okay, so there's the and then it's treating that as F is what it looks like. And I think I have, and of course, so Windows XP, we didn't really have to do anything. One of these is even the tools disk. I think, okay, that one is the one I have in the drive. And I still have that disk that I copied everything to. I've actually got that in that 7588 system. So let's see. Some of these had, I think there's even a Norton Utilities or something that these two. Okay, and so they even have a read this document on the the disc that I just put in. And I have to remember the camcorder's off for this. You can't normally see the drive axis or anything like that. But you know, this goes through and works straight away from Windows XP. So it would be nice to even to see the, you know, to get this also running from DOS and even have the choice between that it can detect whether the parallel port model or the SCSI is connected to whatever interface. And it may even be interesting. I may have to, okay, this installation only works for Windows 95. That's kind of interesting. Let's even just, so not running through, I just wanted to look at the files. There's your Windows 95 stuff, your Windows 3.1 stuff, Win and T stuff. I don't see any DOS stuff necessarily right off the bat. So I'll have to go through and maybe study how I can go through and run that config or something else to this to get it to recognize under DOS. And especially since I don't have the CD drive recognize itself from DOS, that might be something to do to go through and get the configuration. Who knows if that's like an easy SCSI setup, probably, or something like that. And the driver to go through and to get that CD drive visible from DOS if we can. But, you know, sorry for, you know, this month going through and launching into Windows XP. I was thinking a little bit more along the lines of whether it could be the DOS related items for being a DOScember video, but you know, that's fine too. We've got this drive attached and working out of the box, and that was interesting enough for the aspect that I had it sealed up all these years and bought other drives, internal drives, and the external parallel port model, and went through and didn't pull this thing out of the box and get it set up. So we get switch back to the camcorder view here. All the stuff that I've gone through and piled up on the desk and everything. But I look forward to going through and, you know, having a follow-up video with the 7588 and seeing what I can do to get a SCSI interface on it, one of those Adaptec boards, and I'll show the adapters that I would consider when I do that. I've got some interesting choices for that video. But I think with this one, and it's getting on 35 minutes, I think it's good for an unboxing video covering what I wanted to cover. And so I just have to go through and see if I'm going to do a video right off the bat, put the other stuff up, and move on from there. There is some other things going on. I plan to go through and release another unboxing video that I've been kind of keeping away, and I've been waiting a little bit for a little bit of the development of a page, which is actually done at this point, and going through having that in place before I go through, and also letting hurt feelings calm down in case there's anybody out there that may have been hurt by the process of me getting that item that I'm going to do the unboxing of. And I'm going to give some qualifiers when I go through and talk about that video, because it's I don't know if the other people that were interested in that adapter were truly aware of what it was, or they didn't notice some of the things, and it took us a little bit more detail of examining that adapter to get some details there. So that's bound to come out soon as well. But if you enjoy this content, enjoy the unboxing video, click on that like button, please, and subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. And consider recommending it to your friends that are interested in this sort of content too, so you get them to subscribe too. I'm under 900 subscribers right now, and I'm thinking about that push into the 1,000 subscriber aspect of what I can do. There might be, I'm thinking of a giveaway. There's a little bit of problem that comes up, of course, with shipping. I mean, YouTube is a worldwide viewership. And if I come up with an item like I'm thinking of, a rather big, heavy item, that's hard to ship around the world somewhere. And so I've got to really decide. I want to be a little bit more fair to international viewers, and I've still got to decide a little bit of how that's going to hash out. But stay tuned by any means. That's just a push for more subscribers, and I'll have details there at least that I'm trying to gain subscribers through that as well. Even the aspect of Patreons as well, to help support a channel like this. And I've been going through and getting a lot of stuff for the channel, and it's nice to have that financial help and a little bit. And there's aspects I need to consider with that in my Patreon level of having a special tier for those people that go through and help a little bit with the financial aspects of the channel, so I can do the content and have this channel running, and they'll get kind of an inside view that non-Patreons will not have access to. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.